Hi, I'm Olivia Reid, and I am the Research and Project Specialist for the YIVO Bruce and Francesca Chernia-Slovin Online Museum. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the online museum, the research process, and I'm going to show you a selection of artifacts. So the goal of the YIVO Chernia-Slovin Online Museum is to bring to life the culture and history of East European Jewry through storytelling and by drawing from YIVO's vast archival and library collections. The museum shows this world in an engaging and interactive way. Our first exhibition is based on the life of a young woman named Beba Epstein. We were able to learn about Beba's childhood through her autobiography, which has an amazing story itself. Beba wrote her autobiography in 1933 and sent it to YIVO. During the 1930s, YIVO held an autobiography contest in which they solicited autobiographies from Jewish youth throughout Poland. These autobiographies are each unique and display the wide range of Jewish experiences in interwar Poland. Beba's autobiography was lost until 2017. During the Nazi occupation of Vilna, the YIVO building and its materials were looted by Nazis. However, a group known as the Paper Brigade worked to save as much of YIVO's materials as they could by hiding them in the Vilna ghetto. After the war, two Paper Brigade members, Avram Sutzkever and Shmerka Katroginski, began recovering these materials and sending them to YIVO in New York. Unfortunately, with the Soviet occupation, many of these materials became endangered once again and were hidden. One of these hidden documents was Beba's autobiography, which was discovered in 2017, along with 140,000 other pre-war documents belonging to YIVO. With the help of Beba's autobiography and other YIVO materials, we are able to present a part of Eastern European Jewry through the lens of a young girl from Vilna. So now I'll talk a little bit about the research process, and to do this, I'm going to highlight a few artifacts. So when we began the project, we started with Beba's autobiography. And from her autobiography, we were able to connect to other YIVO archival collections. For example, Beba attended the Sofia Gurevich School and the Real Gymnasia. Both of these archives are housed here at YIVO and are a part of the Edward Blank YIVO Online Collections project. As we were piecing together Beba's life, we started to break out experiences based around one topic, such as summer resort towns or primary education. From here, we were able to choose artifacts that highlighted these topics and utilize them to provide historical context and experiences of the time outside of Beba's story. So now I'm just going to share my screen. So here we have an artifact from Chapter 1. In Chapter 1, you are introduced to Beba. You'll learn about her personality traits, a little bit about her life, and you'll also learn we were only able to learn this information about Beba from her autobiography. Because of this, Chapter 1 artifacts highlight different autobiographies, including Beba's own from the 1930s. So this autobiography here was sent to YIVO and was written by David Kuchalnik. And what I find really interesting about this is the varying backgrounds and writing styles and topics sent into the contents. So David, who also sent in a picture of himself like Beba did, as you'll see here, he's much older than Beba and writes in a poetic style compared to Beba's facts about her family and life. And this is just one example of different autobiographies sent into YIVO. And in Chapter 1, we have a couple other autobiographies and excerpts from translated autobiographies. All right, so here is the second artifact I'm going to show. And so this artifact is in Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 is all about Vilna. And you'll be able to explore 3D models that we recreated of 1930s Vilna. And because of this, the artifacts are focused on life in Vilna, highlighting cultural and religious life. The item I'm showing you here is a page from the Pincus, or a record book, from the Vilna Gaon Klois, or the religious study house or synagogue. The Vilna Gaon was a religious scholar, communal leader, and really just a central figure of Lithuanian Jewry. So the third artifact that I have here from you is from chapter 6. So Beba's autobiography discusses how she spent her summers. She enjoyed going on vacation, which can be explored in chapter 3, but Beba also went to summer camps, sometimes for her poor health and sometimes for a youth movement she was active in, such as SCIF. So chapter 6 artifacts highlight different summer camps in interwar Poland. This image I have selected here is showing children from a camp run by TOES, which was an organization dedicated to the health and well-being of the Jewish community. The organization developed health colonies or summer camps to give children from poor urban communities access to fresh air and nourishment. The children here are resting in hammocks and enjoying the fresh country air. Right, so I'll move to our fourth artifact here. So this artifact is in chapter 7, and it is a letter that Beba wrote to her uncle. So chapter 7 is a mix of artifacts highlighting the growing anti-Semitism in the 1930s and Beba's life in high school at the Real Gymnasia. So the item I chose here, like I said, is a letter that Beba wrote to her uncle, Lazar Epstein, who was living in New York at the time. Beba actually donated her uncle's collection to YIVO's archive, and it had so many valuable pieces documenting Beba's life from her and her family's correspondence before the war, and also documenting her immigration story to the United States after the war. This letter here was written by Beba to her uncle in English and in Polish. This is the first letter that she wrote to her uncle in English, and she was requesting dictionaries from him. I find this letter particularly interesting because not only is it a piece of Beba's life that we were lucky to find, but it also shows the strength of the education system in Poland at the time. Beba was attending a school run by CISO, and was not only learning Polish and Yiddish, but also English. And a cool thing that you can do here on the artifacts is there are some where there's additional images at the bottom. So you can click on it and see, so this is her Polish letter, and you could go back here, and this is the letter that she wrote in English. So this is the fifth and final artifact that I will show you guys today. This is from chapter 8. So chapter 8 goes through Beba's experience during the Holocaust, and therefore the artifacts of this chapter display different experiences of the Holocaust. The item I'm highlighting here is a book from the Lodz ghetto that was prepared by the children of the ghetto and was presented to Mordechai Chaim Rumkowski, who was the leader of the Judenrat in the Lodz ghetto. This book was given to Rumkowski on Rosh Hashanah in 1941 by the school children to thank him for the schools and the meals that he was providing. Sadly, though, a majority of these children were transported from the Lodz ghetto to Chelmno in Auschwitz within the next few years. So similarly to the artifact that I just showed, this one has additional pages that you can look at. So this first page here is a signature page. So this book is comprised of pages of signatures from the over 14,000 children in the ghetto. And there are also individual pages from each school in which they write different greetings to him. So I just have a few examples here to show you. This is one here written in Polish. And so they vary in intricacy of writing and illustrations. And it's really heartbreaking to go through this book. And then we end here with a photograph of Rumkowski walking through the section of the Lodz ghetto where the children's schools were held. All right, so artifacts like the ones that I just showed highlight YIVO's vast archival collections, and they also provide important historical context to each chapter of the museum. The artifacts, combined with other features of the museum, such as maps, content boxes, animations, and 3D models, help create an interactive experience that allows the visitor to engage and learn with Beba's story and YIVO's holdings, and to come away with a deeper understanding of pre-war Jewish life in Poland. and gain a connection to Beba Epstein. I want to encourage you to visit the YIVO Bruce and Francesca Chernia-Slovin Online Museum, which is accessible from the YIVO website or at museum.yivo.org. I hope you enjoyed exploring and learning. Thank you.